Good morning. What do you do when you travel and you have a wheelchair or other heavy equipment that you need for your loved one or for yourself when you travel? How about a service dog? How about any kind of extra special service that you might need because you have a disability or some kind of extra support that you need? Well, I'm Mary Winters and the host of Visionary Aging and the owner of About Senior Solutions. And we put the show together for you so that you have resources and ways to figure out a better lifestyle or more support or whatever you might need to really progress in a really positive way with how you want to live your life. So today we have Christy LaCroix on with Cruise Planners. She's going to talk a lot about all those little details for us. We have Steve McCullough on. He has a great caregiver question for us in regards to memory loss and kind of starting that journey. Where do you go? What are the directions that you might need? And we have a 100th birthday. We unfortunately cannot pull up her photo, but she is a local woman to us, and she is 100 and guess what? 107. So let's go ahead and get started, and we'll bring on Steve McCullough for that caregiver question. Morning, Steve.
Good morning, Mary. How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing? And what is our question?
I'm doing good. Our question comes from a viewer that there is showing signs of memory loss. To help understand what the next steps would be.
Okay, so you're kind of going in and out a little bit, or at least from my side, and it sounds like the viewer's sister is having some memory issues, and they want to know how to go about figuring out what they need to do for her. Was that the question?
Is this any better?
Yes.
Okay, so the question is, the sister is showing signs of memory loss. They're not sure if that's the case, so they want to know what they can do to find out if she is suffering from memory loss, and then what the next step would be.
Yeah, it's a great question and a really common situation for people, obviously. And my response is, we need to check this out. We need to see if it's something reversible first. So definitely go to your primary doctor. We look at issues like urinary tract infection, which is reversible. We look at medication interactions, which could cause issues that appear to be memory loss. We look at deficiencies in vitamins and minerals, especially B vitamins. B and D we always have checked. We have our thyroid checked to see if something might be off balance. And also depression, looking at the scales with depression and seeing, because depression can also manifest like memory loss. I don't know if the viewer's sister is having some issues with stress. Maybe she's had a big loss recently or a change in her life. I don't know how old she is either, but sometimes stress can really create a lot of fog to our brains. So that is something also to consider. We have some really fabulous resources in the San Gabriel Valley of Los Angeles County in California. There are also ADRCs, Alzheimer's disease research centers all over the country where you can go and have testing done. Specifically in Pasadena, we have an organization called HMRI, Huntington Medical Research Institute, and they seek people even pre-dementia to come in. They will, it's my understanding, even pay a little something for this research study for you to participate. And they will do a thorough background and exam. I have had people who have done that. They find it very supportive, and have also revealed that they do not have dementia. They will know that they do have some issue, or they have nothing to worry about in the near future. So also really wonderful program that costs nothing. So you don't have to worry about insurance or anything to be part of that process. And then the ADRCs can run tests, your primary physician can run tests, And imaging is also an important thing. Years ago, we used to say that we really didn't know if you had dementia, just because there were changes in the brain, and that's really, it may not solidify the specific type of dementia, but it will reveal changes to the brain for certain. And it really depends, I think, also on the expertise of the individual. Another step that we like to take or look at is a neuropsychological test. It's lengthy, but we have different areas of our brain that produce and do different things. And it looks at each of those domains of our brain and can really specify you're having a problem in this area, but these areas are fine. So we can really focus on what we need to really support the individual with, or what type specifically of dementia that they're having. Symptoms are really important to share and talk about so that we can understand in more depth where we can provide direction or support. And oftentimes, if there is some kind of a loss, it's also time to sit down with all the loved ones who care for and see often that individual is having memory loss, and we learn to speak differently with them. And I work a lot with people to reduce the conflict or the agitation with the individual. So some things just don't always make sense, and it's really hard. We want to create a lot of logic around what might be coming up for that individual with memory loss, and it's not worth it. We'll just talk. We learn to speak a little bit differently. So I hope that helps the individual. They can certainly call our office, 626-359-0108, and get more information on any kind of initial steps that they might need, or that we can offer to them when they go see their doctor. So I hope that helps.
Very thorough. It's a lot of information.
Yeah,
Very
good.
Yeah.
Good. Well, we have a fabulous guest on with us today, Christy LaCroix from Cruise Planners, and she has it dialed down as far as traveling with wheelchairs and all kinds of extra little support systems that you might need when you travel. And I'm so pleased to have her on. So we're going to go ahead, and I'll see you after, and we'll talk a little bit about our sports and history, or day in history. So, all right.
We'll have a good show.
Okay, thanks. Whoops. And there we go. And we'll bring Christy on with us. It's exciting to know that we have somebody who specializes in this area. Hi, Christy. How are you?
Hi, Mary. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Thank you.
Good. Happy to be here.
Oh, I am too, because I think being able to travel brings so much pleasure to people, and it's stressful getting on and off of planes or trains or whatever you're doing. And the fact that somebody may have a disability and need some additional assistance on top of it adds extra stress to the travelers with them and to them personally. So I am so excited to know that you are that person we can rely on to help really get through those processes with way less stress. So share a little bit about how you help your typical clients.
Well, I think a lot of people ask me, how did you get in? How did you start doing this?
Sure,
well,
actually,
very
better.
practical. My husband, Jerry, had MS. He had it blocked for 30 years. And when we started to travel, I would call ahead and ask all the questions that were pertinent to make sure that his needs were being met, by the size of the room, the bed height, roll and shower, attached shower seat, things like that. And we would fly across the country and unload and get where we're going. And no, nothing was the way it was told to me. So we got very frustrated. And I said, boy, somebody's got to do something about this. And
somebody.
And this voice in my father's voice in my head said, if you want something done right, do it yourself. So I kind of was taken back, because I had a career, I had a job, and I thought, wow. So that kind of, simmered in there. And as we traveled more, I took pictures, I asked questions, I learned more. I joined an organization called SATH, Society for Accessible Travel and Hospitality. I met a lot of providers around the world. So if I could get somebody there, they would pick up and take care of them from that point on. And then I walked away from my 25-year career making money to not making money and starting a company called Wheelchair Escapes. And it just kind of grew and grew and grew. And I joined Cruise Planner so I would have more extras to add for my clients. And so 22 years doing this. So I've learned a lot. I've opened the doors for a lot of people that didn't think they could travel and make sure their needs are met. One of the things you were talking about, looking forward to travel, one of the things I find is if you have something to look forward to, your brain is happier.
You're
The
right.
endorphins are there, the serotonin's pumping. And so you might go from, a couch potato, and now you're thinking, wow, in 6 months, I'm going to be doing this or seeing this or whatever. And it doesn't just benefit the person who's going to travel, but if they are in a position where they have a caregiver, they're actually more pleasant to the caregiver. And the caregiver has an easier job caring for somebody who's happier and has something to look forward to.
Well, you've taken the uncertainty out of what they're doing. So you've made it much more predictable, and so they can be at ease and comfortable.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure you have lots of people who travel multiple times with you in a year or over your 22 years because they feel so secure about the way they're being treated, and that they know that they can travel much more easily. And it takes the fear away. It takes the fear away.
Oh, the fear of the unknown and what's going to happen. And you hear all these horror stories. And it's my job to kind of lighten that load so you understand the whole process. On my website, wheelchairescapes.com, there are little videos, and I tell people how to prepare their chair for travel. There's a video there from Alaska Airlines that shows the whole transfer process from your wheelchair to an aisle chair to your seat and back. And there's little tips. There's little things that people can do. I have developed a sign that I make for each of my clients' wheelchairs, and it tells anyone coming in contact with the chair exactly how to put it in freewheel and put it in lock. And that goes into a durable plastic holder with zip ties. You attach it to your chair. When they come to take your chair, as long as they can read English, they've got it made. They can take it. And of course, if you're going to fly, before they close down the plane, you make sure and say, could you just double check and make sure my power chair has been loaded? So it's a little tiny tip. I've never had a client not have their chair loaded, but I have heard other stories. And so it's just worth it. It's like insurance right there, because if they haven't loaded the chair and they haven't closed the plane, then they can load the chair. If they've closed the door and they're backing away, that's going to create a problem.
Sure, absolutely. Well, that's a huge tip, and certainly a great reason for people to call you. I just want you to share, in addition to the email you gave, please give your contact information and make sure that people hear it. In addition to, we have the scroll running below,
okay.
But I want to make sure people can get a hold of you.
Okay, so phone number is 603-382-3596. Best email address is the letter K and then LaCroix, LACROIX like X-ray, at cruiseplanners.com. So K LaCroix at cruiseplanners.com.
So when the LaCroix drink came out, you knew exactly how to pronounce the name when everybody else was arguing over how it should be pronounced.
Well, I'll tell you, it's really a French word, and it's LaCroix, and that means the cross. But we in America, of course, we don't speak proper English. We speak American English. So OIX for us would be oi. So we call it LaCroix. I'm sure the French kind of bat an eye and say, oh, those Americans, But anyway, it is what it is. Talking about travel, some people aren't aware that you can have a hospital bed or a Hoyer lift or a trapeze or oxygen or a beach wheelchair, all sorts of things delivered, whether to a cruise ship or to a resort, a hotel location. Anything you might need basically is available. You just have to talk, make sure people know what your needs are, and make sure those things are in place. So it's another thing you don't have to be concerned about.
That's fantastic. Now, how about oxygen on an airplane? Is that something that you've run across?
Yes, they're a little particular on what type of oxygen because not every seat has a place to plug in for that. So it's something you really have to call the access department at the airlines to work directly with. There is um, there is a portable one. I know not everybody can use it, and it's on the tip of my tongue. And that's perfect. You can take that right on with you, and it's a concentrator.
Yes.
Uh,
Concentrators.
darn.
Don't worry about that now, because I know that you'll have that set up with anybody that needed to actually travel with oxygen, because I know that there are several people who have declined travel air travel because of that. So if you're telling me that's a possibility, then Christy LaCroix will make it happen. And
so there are a few others of us out there that do specialize in travel for the disabled. So I'm not the only one, but there are others. I know one of the things people are concerned about is accessible transportation once they get somewhere. And so basically those are the things I've checked out. I know which islands in the Caribbean have accessible transportation. So if someone wants to do a cruise and we talk about the best cruise ship, the itinerary, these are the islands that have accessible transportation. These are not. This is what you can do about that. So even for people who would like to try scuba diving, and they'll say, well, I told you I can't walk. And I said, well, you don't need to walk to scuba dive. But I work with a company in St. Thomas that will get you in the water and get you out scuba diving. You don't have to walk to scuba dive. So there's other opportunities out there that sometimes people aren't aware of. And even having a beach wheelchair makes a huge difference on getting into the water. So
yeah, share some of your other travel stories about people not thinking that they could ever travel to a particular destination, and you made that happen.
Here's one particular lady had muscular dystrophy. She used a power chair, and she and her husband are going on a cruise. This ship happened to have a zip line, happens to have a rock wall. And they did the scuba diving. And I got this wonderful letter from her after she came back, and she said, nobody told me, no, you can't do it. Everybody worked with me to make sure I could do it. And she said, I did the zip line, I climbed the rock wall, I did the scuba diving. And she just came back really pumped up and excited that she was able to do these things. One of my clients said, what you give us is hope, and you can't put a price on hope.
No.
So I've had someone in a wheelchair actually propose on his cruise, and he worked with the ship, and they had a special place and the red roses and the champagne waiting, and so that was kind of exciting. And he got to do the zip line as well. Even Royal Caribbean has ships that have accessible merry-go-rounds. So they don't have a lift to get you on a horse or a giraffe or an elephant, but you can get on the merry-go-round. And so, little story, we were on a ship. There was a young man in a wheelchair, and he was traveling with a bunch of friends. And we went to the boardwalk, and all of his friends were on the merry-go-round. And he was zooming around and around the merry-go-round outside in his chair. And I stopped him for a minute, and I said, don't you want to ride the merry-go-round with your friends? He said, yeah. So I went over, and unfortunately, the person operating the merry-go-round didn't know that it was wheelchair accessible. So when it stopped, I showed him how that works and what you have to do. And now this kid got to ride on the merry-go-round with his friends. So let's level the playing field and move along. So one thing that's exciting is people are really making great strides to make aircraft to have a wheelchair accessible bathroom. So that's going to be happening in the next few years, that any new builds have to have an accessible bathroom, and the crew has to be trained on how to use that aisle chair and assist somebody. The other thing that's coming up and everybody's been waiting for is to be able to drive your wheelchair right on board the plane and not giving it up and being tied down the front row. So
Yeah.
that's in the works as well. I wouldn't hold my breath, because it's going to take some more time. There's been groups working on this. But I read an article just a week or two ago, and I saw pictures and what they're doing, and it looks like that's going to happen. So yay, the more that people get out and travel in wheelchairs, the more things that are going to become accessible. Cozumel, Mexico, 13 wheelchair accessible cabs. You can't find them in Boston. 13 wheelchair accessible cabs. Maybe they're there, but I have not seen them. So we have places in the United States that have less accessibility than other places in the world. And people say, well, I know they don't have ADA there, but you know what? If the cruise ships are bringing people there and they have 50 wheelchair accessible cabins on board, there are people in wheelchairs coming, and it's going to go off in somebody's head. Wow, if I can get an accessible vehicle, I'm going to take care of these people and I'm going to make some money. So perfect story, St. Martin, Lewis. I went to St. Martin. I said, does anybody have accessible transportation? This is probably 15 years ago. They said, oh yeah, there's a guy here. So they called him. I went with them. I looked at his vehicles and I wanted to know where was his heart. And I said, how is it that you started this? He says, my mom had diabetes and she lost both of her legs to diabetes. And so we had to have accessible transportation for her. And I saw all the people in wheelchairs coming off the ship. So he doesn't just have cabs, he has large vehicles that can take 6 in wheelchairs and maybe 8 able-bodied. So he built a business around this. He was the only son. There were 5 children, 4 daughters. He's the son. I took all his information. I took it to Royal Caribbean, to the access department. I says, look, you have this guy here. These are the vehicles. You need to put him on your list and have accessible tours in St. Martin. And sure enough, now Lewis and his family have a whole different standard of life because they saw this need.
Wow.
And, he has the heart for it. And that's one of the things I look for. I want to know your heart, because if it's just about the money, you're not in the business for the right reason.
Yeah. Well, and there's so many really strong people, even though they're wheelchair bound, who have that desire to travel, and you're making that happen for people, which is just incredible. Christy, if you'd like to come back on with us towards the end, we're going to have Stephen come in and kind of mention a few things about some day in sports, a little history piece that we do. But once again, can you please mention how to get a hold of you?
Okay, my phone number is 603-382-3596. And my email is the letter K and then LaCroix, LACROIX @cruiseplanners.com.
Fantastic. I love it. So I hope to see you in a couple minutes, and
Okay.
we'll bring Steve back with us. And thank you so much for everything that you do.
Okay, if you hear my phone ring in the background, somebody's already called me with a question.
Good. That sounds great. Well, Steve, oh gosh, I love the work that she does. It's absolutely incredible. Why don't you let us know about our day in sports?
Sure. The year was 1951. The location was the New York Polo Grounds. And on this date, the New York Giants, now the San Francisco Giants, but the then New York Giants, lost to the Philadelphia Phillies 4-0. And the significance of that is they fell behind first place by 13. I don't remember if it's 13 or 13 and a half games of the Brooklyn Dodgers. So the now Los Angeles Dodgers are playing in Brooklyn. And the Giants then went on this amazing run. They finished the year 37-7. They tied the Dodgers for the league title, which forced a three-game playoff. They beat the Dodgers the one in the playoffs. There was a shot. Bobby Thompson hit a home run. It's the shot heard around the world. Iconic home run. If you ever watch like old baseball highlights, they always show it. And that gave the Giants the pennant. So they were 13 games back on August 11th in 1951. They came back and they won the pennant. They went on to play in the World Series. Lost to the Yankees. But it was also Willie Mays' first year in the major leagues, his rookie year. The interesting thing about the Giants, that team, is that they were always accused of stealing signs. And finally, decades later, some of the players confirmed that they were stealing signs. And they had a person on their team in center field with a telescope. And to the extent that he could see the catcher's signs that the catcher was giving to the pitcher, he had a wire, and he would hit this wire and send signals to the dugout on what the pitch was coming. And the dugout would then relay that information to the batter. So that was something that they were accused of for a long time. They denied it. And then finally, I think it was like 2001 when some of the players finally started confirming that they actually did do that. So it's not illegal to steal signs in baseball, but it's not really, doesn't really go with the sportsmanship of the game.
Right.
But yeah, so that's what happened on this day, 1951.
Nice. Well, very recently I was wrong. I thought our centenarian turned 107. Caridad Papa actually turned 110.
Oh, wow.
Her actual birthday was, well, actually, she's coming up. She's August 14th, 1913. She was born in the Philippines, and she was one of 11 children. She had 5 children of her own. She has great-great-grandchildren. They love her sense of humor. They say she still is very sharp and sits in the front row at church, over at Holy Angels Church. And she says that her longevity is due to God. And she said, they say, how long are you going to live? She said, I don't know. Only God knows. But I also know that God is the only one. And that is why I have lived to have this fabulous life. But she is a wonderful lady. They call her Lola. Her name is Caridad Papa, but as grandma in the Philippines, we use the term Lola. And so Lola, happy birthday, and many more. The other thing that's very interesting is they call her a super centenarian, and they're only 53. So these are people that are well over 100. And wow. So they're only 53, and they're all happen to be women, which is also very interesting. We had, I think she was 122, the woman who recently passed away in France. And we've had a few women that are well over that 100 year mark. And
that's excellent.
This year, but our Lola here in the San Gabriel Valley is doing very, very well. So
happy birthday, Lola.
Happy birthday. We're going to go ahead and bring back our guest, Christy LaCroix, and just say goodbye and make sure that everybody has a great weekend. Christy, thank you so much for being on with us today. We really, really appreciate it. Really enjoyed the connection that you create for people and that joy to be able to travel again, or at least with reduced fear and so much more support. Just an incredible thing that you do. I love it.
What I might just leave is hope, HOPE, high on positive energy. So we all should have a lot of hope, because our life gets easier and better and less worries and care if we are full of hope.
Absolutely. Well, I think that's a great note to end on. Everyone, you have a fantastic weekend, and we will see you next week.
Thanks, Mary. Richard. Bye-bye.
Good.
Stephen.
Be safe, everyone.